On May 14th, a chip company most people had never heard of walked onto the Nasdaq and raised $5.5 billion in a single morning. By lunchtime, its stock had jumped almost 70%, and a company that builds a chip the size of a dinner plate was suddenly worth around $70 billion. Its name is Cerebras, and the entire pitch behind that $5.5 billion payday is one audacious idea: that it can do something nobody has managed in a decade, take real market share away from Nvidia. Let me back up, because the story of how we got here is wild. For years, the whole AI world has run on one company's chips. Nvidia makes the GPUs that train and run almost every major AI model on Earth, and that near monopoly turned Nvidia into one of the most valuable companies in history. Every startup that promised to challenge it eventually faded. So when a company actually pulls off the biggest tech IPO since Uber back in 2019, on the promise of beating Nvidia, Wall Street pays very close attention. Here is what makes Cerebras different. Nvidia's chips are roughly the size of a postage stamp, and to build a supercomputer you wire thousands of them together. Cerebras went the opposite direction. It builds one giant chip, a single piece of silicon almost the size of a dinner plate. They call it wafer-scale. The idea is simple. Instead of thousands of small chips constantly passing data back and forth, you put everything on one massive chip so the data never has to leave. And for one specific job, inference, which is the moment an AI model actually answers your question, Cerebras claims its system runs more than 20 times faster than Nvidia's flagship B200 chip. Speed is the whole bet, because the AI business is quietly shifting. For the last few years, the money was in training, building the models. Now the race is about inference, running them billions of times a day for every chat, every search, every agent. Whoever can answer fastest and cheapest wins. Cerebras is betting the future of AI is an inference war, and that its dinner plate chip is built to win it. So how did the IPO actually go? Frankly, it was a spectacle. Cerebras priced its shares at $185 each. Demand was so intense the deal was oversubscribed more than 20 times, meaning investors asked for 20 times more stock than actually existed. When it opened for trading under the ticker CBRS, the price didn't tick up. It rocketed to around $350, nearly double the offering price. The company raised $5.5 billion, and on a fully diluted basis, its value brushed up against $86 billion. For a chip startup, those are staggering numbers. But here is where you need to be careful, because under that fireworks display sit some very real cracks. Start with the revenue. In 2025, Cerebras brought in about $510 million. That is real, and it grew 76% in a year, which is impressive. But look closer at where that money comes from. Around 86% of it comes from just two customers, both tied to the United Arab Emirates, an AI firm called G42, and a university backed by Abu Dhabi. 86% of your business from two buyers in one region is not a foundation. It is a tightrope. If either one slows down, Cerebras's revenue could fall off a cliff. There is a brighter spot, though, and it is a big one. Cerebras signed a compute deal with OpenAI, the maker of ChatGPT, that starts at $1 billion and could climb as high as $20 billion over time. If that deal grows the way both sides hope, it would transform Cerebras from a two-customer company into a genuine pillar of the AI economy. That single contract may be the most important number in the entire story, more important than the IPO pop. So why does all of this matter for your money, even if you never buy a single share? Because Cerebras is the first real test of a question worth trillions. Can anyone actually break Nvidia's grip? Nvidia's enormous valuation is built on the assumption that it owns AI computing with no serious rival. The moment Wall Street believes that assumption is cracking, that a faster, cheaper challenger is taking real inference business, the math behind the entire AI trade starts to shift. That is why a $5.5 billion IPO for a company most people had never heard of made headlines around the world. And the story is already getting complicated. After that spectacular debut, the stock didn't keep climbing. It pulled back as investors did the cold math on the customer concentration and the sky-high valuation. That is the tension Cerebras now lives in, a genuinely revolutionary chip, a once-in-a-decade IPO, and a business resting on just two big customers and one enormous promise from OpenAI. The technology may be the real deal. The question is whether the business underneath it can grow up fast enough to justify an $80 billion bet. So here is what I want to know from you. Is Cerebras the company that finally cracks Nvidia's monopoly? Or is this just another challenger that flames out once the hype cools? Drop your take in the comments. I read them. And if you want the biggest moves in AI and money broken down like this every single day, hit subscribe to Mind Blitz. I'll see you in the next one.